Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm Robert Kalin.
Mike Newman joining you again here today. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's awesome. We got a great topic today. I don't know if this resonates with you guys. Listen to this, okay? It takes too long. It's too hard. It's faster if I do it myself. I have to be sure that it's done right, or I don't even know how to do this. Maybe some of those phrases just resonated with you right now. What's going on in your business? The reality is that we have two choices to make when it comes to delegation. We can either delegate a task, or we can do what's called abdicating a task. And I wanted to talk about that specifically today, because I think it has there's something big in the subtlety in there for us.
Yeah. Robert, I think when we were talking beforehand about this, and we're looking at the actual, what's the difference between delegating something to someone and abdicating your responsibility towards the business. And you brought up kind of a piece that I thought was really helps define that fine line of when you delegate versus advocate. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So when you delegate something to somebody, you're actually empowering them to do the task, right? But when you abdicate it, you're ultimately saying, I'm not responsible or accountable for this anymore, right? And in no part of our business should we ever give away accountability for a piece of our business. We're responsible for all of it. We oversee every aspect, whether it's in our gift or not. I've made the mistake of abdicating financial responsibility to someone else, and it didn't have a great outcome. What happens when we abdicate is that we don't end up recognizing problems until they're so big that they're back on our radar again. And so
I think that's really a key thing. If you advocate something, you are not taking responsibility for that. But when you delegate something, you still have responsibility for it. Yeah. So it's subtle, but at the same time, it's a huge difference in it. So delegating sometimes can be thought of as, I just want to get this off my plate, so I'm going to delegate it to somebody else. Okay. And to me, that's not really a great way to delegate things. I think when we delegate something, we should be doing it with an attitude of, how do we help this person that we're delegating it to? How do we help them grow into being able to take on that task and do it as good or better than what we could do it?
It's good. There's a quote by John Acuff from his book Soundtracks, where he says, your thoughts empower your actions, which in turn generate your results. And why that's important in this conversation is sometimes we walk into the conversation here with those thoughts that we said at the beginning. It's too hard. It takes too long. It's faster if I just do it myself. I need to be sure that it's done right. And when we approach the conversation that way, that's going to generate a different result than saying, hey, I want to empower somebody else to take the next level in their own employee journey or leadership journey. And so I love that you brought that point up, Mike.
I think when we clearly identify what it is that we're delegating, and we share with the person why we're delegating that to them, then what that does is it gives them that opportunity for growth, but it also creates some clarity in our own mind about what it is that we're wanting to accomplish. Yeah. Sometimes we get so busy that if someone could just do this for me, it would make my life so much easier. And so we say, Robert, go do this. Yeah. And then Robert goes and does it, and it comes back and it's nowhere near what we thought it would be. And that's where I could do it better myself comes into play. I think oftentimes from our own experiences, we weren't clear. We didn't create clarity on the front end when we delegated the task. Mm-hmm. And I think that as we look at this, there needs to be a check-in process along the way too when you delegate to somebody. We've talked before about personality styles, but I think this is really true. And when we delegate somebody, you can have somebody that goes, oh, well, let me check back with you in 10 minutes to make sure I'm doing this right because I want to make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to be. That's one extreme. Or you have the other extreme that says, great, love to do it. Thanks. And then they get off and going and you don't bother to check. And so having a check-in process, I think is really key when we're thinking about delegating tasks, especially if it's the first time that you've delegated something to that person. So you don't have a track record of their performance.
Absolutely. And here's what I would say, when we say identify a task that we want to delegate, think of maybe a job description. Okay. This is a good way to kind of do it. We've got a certain job that we need to hire out. And so we're going to create a job description. And this is what this looks like. This is how we correctly perform this task. That might not be in the job description. That's something that has to get talked out with the candidate. And so, I think with job descriptions and delegation of a job, we really have to consider the person on the other end because we don't necessarily have to know how they're going to do it. They're just responsible for a certain result within the business. And we can leave some of that up to, negotiation or preference in a sense. So, another piece of this, which I think is really important, Mike, I don't want to just like run over what you just said there about, the person who needs every step of the way, like, hey, I want to check in with you. I want to check in with you. I want to check in with you. And then the other person who's like, get the keys to the car and drive off and you never hear from them again. Because I think a lot of problems come with this, where as leaders in our organization, we don't want to micromanage people, but sometimes we end up doing it, and I think that's an important point to kind of pull out in this delegation. How do we, from your perspective, how do we go about creating a check-in process that isn't micromanaging, it's empowering?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robert, because I believe that we have to treat individuals the way they're wired. And so what works for Robert might not work for Mike, might not work for Tony. And so we've got to adapt our style as a leader to address those things of each individual's characteristics. And so if Robert is the type of person that has that personality style of, hey, give it to me, I'm ready to go, and takes off, that's great and wonderful. And we think it's all going well until it shows back up. And then, wow, I didn't know we were doing that. Versus the other person that we were just talking about that needs that ongoing support because they're concerned about the details and everything. And they want to make sure that they're doing things right because part of what is their wiring is about having peace and harmony in their life. They want to make sure there's no conflict taking place. So if we know those two things about the individuals, we can really set up two different ways of dealing with them. One is if that person needs the ongoing support that's there, we can figure out and create a system, whether we do it by management, by walking around and just walking by and saying, hey, how's it going with this? And having that check in, or maybe it's something more formal where there's an actually scheduled time every single day where they can report to you what's happening. Take the other person that's out there, just give it to me and let me go. You've got to be able to have some type of a check-in system along the way where you're able to say, hey, Robert, let's meet on Tuesday at 10 and you can update me on where you're at on the project.
Yeah,
That's the type of thing about how you can make the adjustments with those two different styles of personalities.
absolutely. I think you know me too well, because I can remember a story of driving with my dad. We were out on a back road out in the country. He pulled his car off. He goes, "Hey, can you drive?" And I'm not gonna get him in trouble with this. But I was 14 years old and he puts me in the driver's seat. He's like, all right, go ahead and go. And I'm like, yeah, I got this. I can do this. Hit the gas pedal. And we didn't go anywhere. The engine just revved. I did not have it in gear. And so the funny thing about that story is that personality style is very true. You forward lead someone else well when it comes to delegating to them. We really need to know the person, is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, and then there's this other thing too that you just brought up with your driving example, is that there are different stages in our lives and in our work that we do where we're um, uh, unconsciously incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were unconsciously incompetent. You said, "Hey, I can drive this thing. Just give me the keys and away we go." And then you suddenly found out that you're immediately moved to the next step of being consciously incompetent. But then we
Yes.
get to the other side of that, is that as you learn to drive, when you drove today, wherever you're at, or if you're driving right now, you're probably not even thinking about how much pressure you're putting on the gas pedal or the brake pedal, or even at the speed at which you're going. You kind of know that based upon the feeling that you have because you've been doing it for so long. And that means that you're unconsciously competent in what you do, that you don't even recognize it. And so sometimes when we as leaders are unconsciously competent, Robert, I need you to go take care of ABC. Okay. And I know how to do ABC. And you come back and do, well, I did A, but I don't even know how to do B. And I got no clue about C. Help me with this. That's a relationship that you've got to be able to have and trust that your employees or the people that you lead, if it's a volunteer organization, they're going to be truthful with you on that process.
Mm-hmm.
And so my other question about delegating and advocating is, how do you create a relationship where people feel empowered when they're delegated to versus you're advocating your responsibility to them to do something?
That's a great question. I actually was thinking about this before we even jumped on this podcast, which I was thinking about doing. I do this thing on my Instagram, Business Secrets, and about the seeds of greatness, right? You have to be able to see someone else that they have potential inside them to be great. And what does it take for a seed to grow? It takes nutrients, it takes water, it takes sunlight, right? So it has to be in the right environment. And so for us as leaders, creating that right environment where we're watering and giving the nutrients to the seed in order for it to be able to grow, I think is really what it stems from. So our own attitude about someone else and valuing them as a person, not for what they can do, but for just who they are, that they have so much potential inside of them, and we can help pull that out.
Yeah, you think about, just as you said that, the seeds, I was thinking about a pumpkin seed. You plant it in your garden, and I am not much of a gardener anymore. But if you don't have the right environment, so I got this dirt this year, and I thought I was doing a great thing and got, I don't know, a yard of this best garden topsoil, and I planted seeds in it, and they hardly grew. They would grow like 4 inches. And so I was just over this last weekend on the east side of the state at my son's house, and my pumpkin plants are probably about this big, really. His are just overtaking the whole thing because he's got the right environment. He's got the good soil. He's got the sunshine. He's got the right amount of water. I probably have too much water and very poor soil and not enough sunshine. And so my pumpkin plants are not growing. So think about your employees, or think about the people that you lead. Are they in the right environment? Are
That's
you
good.
creating that environment?
Well, I would also add to that, recognizing what type of seed it is, right? Because we talked about this earlier, the personality piece. Like a blueberry plant is going to grow in a different environment. It needs shade. It needs more shade than sunlight than a pumpkin seed, right? And so recognizing that what we're planting and what we're trying to cultivate within the environment that we have as well. So I love that. I think it's really important for you guys, as you think about delegating and growing your business, the only way to grow your business is to delegate tasks out, whether that's contractors or hiring employees, or, getting your kids to do it for you. I don't know, but delegating those tasks is hugely essential if you want to continue to grow and elevate your business to the next level.
Yeah, I think my last closing comment would be, as we wrap this up today, is don't expect the person to do it as good as you can the first time. be open to failure, be open to struggles along the way, because that's how they're going to grow.
Yeah.
And be willing to listen to what their ideas are about how maybe it can be done even better. And I think that,
And you're 100% right. And I just want to point out my driving. When I first got into the car, my first experience was hitting that gas pedal and going nowhere. And now I'm not even thinking about it, right? So you start somewhere, and chances are your first time you suck, and that's okay. Chances are you're the person that you're delegating a task off to is not going to do the greatest job, and that's okay. It's a learning opportunity, and there's going to be failure. There has to be mistakes made in order for them to grow. So that's a great point, Mike. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'd like to say that, as we close this out today, that if there's something that we've said today that resonated with you and you think somebody else should be able to hear that, share the podcast with them, send them the link, and certainly, make a comment to us from time to time of things that resonate with you, or maybe a topic that you think maybe we should talk about that would help you in your business, in your brand, and in your leadership. So, Robert, close it out for us.
Yeah, love it. You guys, we are just so thankful for you, for your loyalty and listening to this. If this is your first time, we're glad that you're here. We believe in business, brand, and leadership. We believe in helping you take things to the next level, and we're willing to share our secrets, our ways of doing things with you. And so we'll just see you on the next episode. Until then, take care. God bless.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.